So this was one of the bigger questions of the fantasy offseason. In a post Tyreek Hill world, who is the wide receiver one in Kansas City? And through two games, I don't know if we really have a definitive answer. Who would you say is the best wide receiver so far in this early part of the season, Drew?
Honestly, I can't give you much of an answer either. I mean, like you said, as soon as Tyreek Hill left, everything kind of just crumbled underneath it. I mean,
Well, the Chiefs' offense is still good.
it's still good. I'm just talking
Not
like the receiving.
crumbled.
Well, I'm talking about just the receivers. Like
Yeah.
it's like a completely different receiving core, and
From a
it,
fantasy perspective, it's crumbling. If you
yeah,
drafted either JuJu, Marquez, Valdes-Scantling, or
Mecole
Mecole
Hardman.
Hardman, you feel like it's crumbled a little bit for you because neither of these guys are really showing out. Travis Kelce through two games still pretty good. 16 targets. He's the target leader. So he's the best wide receiver out of the tight end position still for this Chiefs offense. So that's one thing that still stood true. But even despite a game in which Patrick Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns in week 1 against the Cardinals, not a lot of that went to the wide receivers. Mecole Hardman was the one of this group that caught a touchdown. So if you're a Mecole Hardman believer, you benefited in week 1 just because he happened to land in the end zone. He didn't land in the end zone in week 2. And so far through 3 games, JuJu, 11 targets. MVS, 11 targets. Hardman, 10 targets. So 15% target share for both JuJu and Marquez. For Hardman, though, he had 3 catches last night. He was the wide receiving leader of the group. But even still, that's not like enough fantasy points to really sustain you. And the touchdowns going to Jerick McKinnon is not what you want to hear. I'm sure that over time it will stabilize. But what is the advice? Are we just benching all 3 of these guys for the foreseeable future?
That's gonna be my say. And I mean, at this point, the only real receiving option you can trust is Travis Kelce at this point.
So next week, Kansas City, long week for them, obviously, because they had the Thursday night game. They'll have to prepare for the Colts. That's their next game. So next Sunday, obviously very roster dependent for everyone, but is there like a pecking order in which you would start these guys if you had them on a roster?
I know the order goes JuJu, then MVS, and then Mecole Hardman, but I think I would go Mecole Hardman first just because I think he's been there the longest.
I got to throw Skyy Moore in here too, just in this
Yeah.
discussion. So he's only had 1 target through the 2 games. As the injury bugs start to settle in and people start to more or less know the constructs of their team, obviously guys like Skyy Moore start to become a little bit more expendable on people's rosters. How much longer do you feel comfortable holding on to a guy like Skyy Moore?
I mean, it might be a while. I don't really want to hold him for that long because, like you said, until the injury bug comes in, it could be weeks on end. It could be week 7, week 6. So
So if
I
I
don't know
told
if
you were in a situation like, okay, you lost Godwin and Keenan Allen, you have Skyy Moore on your bench, but maybe there's, let's say, one of the Washington wide receivers, Dotson or Samuel, is out there. Skyy Moore on the drop list. Can you afford to keep him in that situation?
if you can get rid of someone else, then get rid of someone else. But if Skyy Moore's your best option to get rid of him, then obviously you just have to get rid of him at that point. I don't see a much holding on to him. I mean, 1 reception in 2 games is not what we expected from a guy who we all thought was gonna kind of explode in a rookie year. So
Now, 6 receptions for JuJu in week 1. I think he's still the best wide receiver,
yeah,
and that still stands with the ADP. Last night was a bad night for him. Obviously, just gained the 3 receptions in total. Isn't going to help anyone in fantasy unless he lands in the end zone. Mecole, I think, might have jumped MVS in terms of necessity. Only 2 catches for MVS in last night's game, 13 yards. You just really can't do much with that. And I will give it credit to the Chargers secondary. There was a few times where I saw the defensive backs making great plays on MVS, but I think that that's just more of the downgrade from Tyreek Hill to MVS. It's more apparent because, yes, MVS has Tyreek Hill speed, but he's not the same level wide receiver or even close to what Tyreek Hill was for this offense. So I think he's in fantasy right now looking like the wide receiver 3 out of the Chiefs offense. I think Cole's jumped him in the early goings. Be curious to see if that continues. I was more impressed by Mecole from a playmaking standpoint last night, at least from what I saw.
yeah, I was too. So, like you said, I'd probably jump Mecole over MVS as of this point right now.
Through 10 targets to MVS is 11, and he has 65 yards over MVS is 57. So slightly more efficient. I feel like there still is at some point during this year, there's going to be a wide receiver to own. I think right now, JuJu is looking like the best as far as trending to who can be 1,000-yard wide receivers in this offense, because this offense is going to throw for close to 5,000 yards. It's just trying to figure out who's going to be the beneficiary. It's not going to be Jerick McKinnon all 17 games. It's not going to be backup tight ends like Noah Gray throughout the rest of the season. Someone's going to break out. It's still unclear who that's going to be, or if it's truly going to just be a week-to-week amalgamation of who's going to be the top dog each and every given game. So I don't know. It's still a weird wide receiving situation to think about. Currently, JuJu, Hardman, MVS. Then I think Skyy Moore. I think Skyy Moore is a clear fourth horse in this race at this moment. How are you navigating the situation right now? I don't think any of these guys deserve to be in your starting lineup, but let us know if you are in a situation where you can't help but put them out there in your starting lineup. Any and all fantasy football questions, drop them below in the comment section. We're happy to answer, happy to talk about them. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media at Real Andrew Hagenbaugh, at JuJu Talk Sports, at Slumpbuster Pod. Stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.